Before the dawn of mankind, before the first heartbeat echoed across creation, heaven trembled, not from weakness, but from a silence so heavy that even the stars seemed to pause their song. The throne stood radiant, yet empty. The angels who once sang in perfect harmony now whispered in uncertainty. Heaven was without a king, and this was the moment after the fall of Lucifer. They say rebellion ends with defeat. But what if, in heaven's timeless realm, the true battle begins after the rebel is cast out? In the aftermath of Lucifer's defiance, the golden streets were quiet. The music that once filled eternity had vanished into echoes. Light still glowed, but something in it had changed. It was softer, dimmer, as though morning. Lucifer, the bearer of light, was gone. His throne among the archangels stood vacant, and the scars of his pride lingered in the hearts of those who had seen him rise and fall. The angels spoke in hushed tones. Why did he allow it? Could perfection truly rebel? Is heaven still perfect? No one dared to ask aloud. But one angel, smaller in rank, unseen among the legions, pondered deeply. His name was Seraphiel, and in his stillness, he began to perceive a truth no one else dared to see. Heaven was not broken. It was being refined. Lucifer's rebellion had not merely removed a traitor. It had revealed the fragile line between worship and pride. Heaven's brilliance had been tested, and every being of light now stood face to face with choice, the divine gift that even angels could misuse. For the first time, obedience meant something more than duty. It meant trust. And in that trust, heaven was learning again what love truly was. Not the kind sung in choirs, but the kind proven through silence, through waiting, through faith when the throne seems empty. But still, the throne was empty. The presence that had filled heaven's courts seemed withdrawn. The Creator, invisible yet omnipresent, allowed his silence to linger like a test of the soul. Many could not bear it. The void left by Lucifer's fall stirred unease, and even among the faithful, doubt began to whisper. What if Lucifer was right? What if heaven is not as it seems? Seraphiel felt the tension around him. The thin veil of peace stretched over questions too heavy to name. He walked past the crystal rivers, where reflections no longer shimmered in perfect symmetry. The stars themselves seemed to flicker uncertainly, as if mourning the loss of their brightest brother. And in that moment, he heard it, faint, like a heartbeat echoing through eternity. The voice of the Almighty. The throne is not empty. It is waiting, but few understood what came next. The silence of God was not absence, it was preparation. Heaven, once a realm of untested loyalty, was about to witness something it had never seen before. The revelation of divine authority not through dominance, but through humility. For beyond time itself, a plan was unfolding, one that would lead to earth, to a cradle in Bethlehem, and to a cross. But in this moment, in the space between rebellion and redemption, heaven stood still, learning the weight of freedom. Lucifer's fall had fractured the harmony of heaven, but it also unveiled its truth, that love without choice is slavery, and worship without understanding is hollow. And so, the angels were being transformed, not into stronger warriors, but into wiser servants. They began to see that heaven's perfection was not in its unbrokenness, but in its response to brokenness. Still, memories of Lucifer lingered. He had been the morning star, radiant and magnificent, his voice able to command the music of the spheres. To see him cast out, to hear the thunder of judgment as he fell, had seared the hearts of those who loved him. Even now, the place where his light once shimmered remained dim, as if heaven itself remembered. And perhaps, that was part of the plan. Every age of creation carries a silence before renewal. The silence after rebellion was heaven's crucible, its sacred stillness before a greater dawn. The archangels gathered. Michael stood solemn, his sword still glowing from the battle that had cast Lucifer down. Gabriel knelt in reverence, awaiting word from the throne. Uriel, the watcher of wisdom, gazed into the distance, into worlds yet unformed. None spoke, until finally, A wind swept across the heavens, not of air, but of spirit, and the radiance of the Almighty filled the courts once more. "The king has not left," said the voice of light. "He prepares his kingdom anew." And with that, heaven understood. This was not the end of sovereignty, it was the beginning of redemption. But few on earth remember this part of the story. We speak of Lucifer's rebellion, of his pride, of his fall. But rarely do we speak of heaven's grief or heaven's waiting. For the void he left was not only a loss, it was a question that echoed through eternity. What is loyalty without sight? What is love without presence? Heaven was learning what humanity would one day live, the faith to trust even when God seems silent. Eons later, when the Son would walk the earth, angels would remember this silence. They would see in his humility the answer to the mystery of that ancient void. The throne had never been empty. It had been descending step by step into the story of mankind. When Lucifer fell, heaven lost its brightest light. But when Christ came, heaven gained its truest king. Maybe that's the lesson we're meant to carry. When it feels like heaven is silent, when the throne seems empty, it isn't abandonment. It's preparation. For in every silence, God is shaping hearts that will one day see him not as a distant ruler, but as the king who reigns through love.